Well, it's crunch time for tourism operators on Kangaroo Island, forced to make tough decisions about the future of their businesses. They say the growing New Zealand fur seal population will eventually wipe out little penguin colonies and fish stocks while they're at it. Some have renewed calls to cull the animal. The Environment Department says a cull is out of the question, and it wants more proof that fur seals are to blame for the decline in marine life. Caroline Winter went to Kangaroo Island to find out more.
It's an almost still morning as dawn breaks over Kangaroo Island. As the wildlife prepares for another day in paradise, so too do the many tourists who visit this place each year. There's no doubt Kangaroo Island has much to offer, but there are concerns a dramatic rise in New Zealand fur seals is threatening some of its main attractions.
Eventually we will be put out of business if these seals are not managed. It is that simple.
30 years ago there was 2 colonies, now there'd be 30 colonies probably or more.
How to best manage the situation is dividing the community.
I think it's entirely unenvironmental to cull or destroy one species over another species.
It's a rebalancing of New Zealand fur seal numbers following the culling in 1800s.
Now here we have one of the penguin boxes we've made.
John Ailiff has run the Kingscote Penguin Centre for 12 years. He says for most of that time, and despite predatory cats and dogs, the colony had been growing.
We were having an increase in penguin numbers up until 2 or 3 years ago, and there's been a steady decline since, and that decline appears to be accelerating. Since then, the numbers of seals have simply increased. There were about 20 seals at their maximum last year, and each evening you would see them patrolling up and down on dusk in front of the penguin colony waiting for penguins to come in.
36,000, or nearly half of the 80 to 100,000 New Zealand fur seals in South Australian waters surround Kangaroo Island. John Ailiff is in no doubt they're directly to blame for the decline in little penguins. Long-time lobster fisherman Graham Walden agrees, but says much more is at stake.
Over the last 4 or 5 years in our lobster industry, they've been giving us trouble where they never used to. We've have to use seal exclusion devices pretty well everywhere we go now to keep them out of the pots, but that doesn't stop them from eating anything that's not in the pot. For the scale fishery and for the fishing tourism and for the penguin tours and that, there's going to be big trouble.
The relationship between fur seals and little penguins is a bone of contention. Bill Hadrell from the Natural Resources Department says they've been monitoring little penguin populations in Kingscote for 6 years, and last year conducted the first island-wide survey of penguin colonies.
There's certainly been reports of some little penguin colonies on Kangaroo Island as being in decline, but that's not a consistent trend. We have some penguin colonies on the island which are relatively stable, and others that are quite healthy. Just because we have New Zealand fur seals present doesn't automatically mean that you have a declining penguin population.
He says cats, dogs, rats and issues like food availability and habitat changes are also at play, and that more research is needed into the impact of fur seals on the colonies.
We need the research that's going to be able to inform decision making going forward, and at this point in time the research doesn't exist, and many of the objective measures to actually measure the level of interaction and the level of potential impact between New Zealand fur seals and little penguins simply does not exist. The department's position is at this point in time there's no culling, there's no sterilisation and there's no relocation of New Zealand fur seals.
Well, I know what's going on, so I don't need any more research on the penguins. We can let it run if we like, and it'll run its course, and they'll breed up until they can't find anything to eat and then they'll starve. But do we want to go that way? That's the question.
A cull wouldn't be out of the question?
Not for me it wouldn't, but I'm a hunter-gatherer from way back.
A cull is completely out of the question for Simone Summerfield. The owner of the Penneshaw Penguin Centre for 14 years has made the tough decision to let her business go.
It's been hard to watch nature take its course. It's something I've eyewitnessed and has some people on the tour. But I've come to the realisation that we can't control nature. I've resolved that I'm going to go along with the changes rather than try to fight them, because I think that fighting them is futile.
She says ethically it's the right decision to allow nature to regain its balance.
The penguins had capitalised on the lack of predators initially to gain that momentum in their breeding. So the tide's changed.
It's not just the little penguins on the shore that have fallen victim.
So it's a gradual rollout. We've done the website.
The problem has forced seafront resort owner Trevor Jaggard to change direction for his business.
About 6 months ago, we made the decision to remove the penguin off of all of our advertising. So we think it's serious, and we don't think it's going to be fixed very quickly.
He says the symbol simply doesn't represent what it used to.
We used to probably have anywhere between 15 and 25 people that would go down for the penguin tour on a nightly basis, and that's probably down to 2 or 3 now because of the uncertainty of the numbers of penguins.
Motions passed at a recent meeting about the problem on Kangaroo Island have now been put to a parliamentary standing committee. They call on the government to urgently support more research into the issue, to develop a management plan on the effects fur seals are having on the environment, and to protect commercial penguin colonies for 3 years. But with little penguins on Granite Island on the brink of extinction, and tuna and other fish under increasing threat at Port Lincoln, it's clear this is a statewide issue which needs a statewide plan. For those waiting for action and answers, time is running out.
Every 1,000 more seals out there is going to eat 1,000 more meals.
We do not have any choice but to confront this matter head on.
We continue on until we feel that it's necessary to close.
Caroline Winter reporting there.